When I first heard about Cyberpunk 2077, I was instantly intrigued. I had just finished The Witcher 3, the first game by CD Projekt Red I had ever played. I was interested to see how they could bring the vast possibilities and freedom of pen and paper role-playing games to a medium that's constrained by so many technical limitations. Everyone was excited about this game. It won all these awards even before it was released. I was hopeful that this would be the next big leap forward in sandbox RPGs. That was 8 years ago. As they slowly revealed more about Cyberpunk, the less excited I became. First it came out that the game would be in first person only, and my interest was just about cut in half. Then the first gameplay was released, and it looked like a generic subpar shooter. Then at E3, Keanu Reeves burst out on stage so we could say Cyberpunk 50 times and leave.
Cyberpunk! Cyberpunk! Cyberpunk!
And when I see these big celebrities trying to sell these games, it always screams distraction tactic to me.
Do you guys want to know when the release date?
Cut to delay after delay after delay, and about 7 high-profile cut features, and it kind of became a meme that this game would never be finished. That it was all just a social experiment to see how long they could keep people waiting.
What is going on in there? Why? What is taking so long?
The longer they wait, the harder they break. Buckle up, students.
What I'm trying to say is, after 8 years of runaway hype, I expected this game to be somewhat underwhelming. What I didn't expect was for it to be this fundamentally broken. Granted, I'm not playing on a brand new computer, I have a GTX 1070, but I gotta believe that I'm representative of the average PC consumer who isn't gonna run out and buy the GTX 7000 whenever it comes out. I genuinely don't know what happened. This isn't like Mass Effect Andromeda, where some corpo was demanding the developer program it on a TI-83 or whatever they used. This is their engine, their product from head to toe. I really have no idea where the disconnect was. But oh boy, did this shit disconnect. Things were so fucked that Sony pulled the game from the PlayStation Store. Do you know what games didn't get pulled? Fallout 76, Ass Creed Unity, Mass Effect Andromeda. Hideo Kojima, what do you think of all this?
すいません。今時間ないんで。
This game was kind of doomed to fail from the start. It seemed like people thought that Cyberpunk 2077 would be the end of history, like it would come out and all the other developers would throw up their hands and quit making video games because nothing would ever be better than Cyberman. People spent so long hyping this game up that at this point, anything less than sterling perfection was going to feel like complete backstabbing betrayal. This guy was so disappointed he made a flowchart of games he would rather recommend than Cyberpunk. So first you want to know, should you buy this game? Well, it's made for a very specific group of people. If you have a water-cooled supercomputer administered by a team of NASA engineers, built by Superman himself, you're probably going to have a passable time with this game. That's what happened to all the game reviewers who weren't allowed to play it on console. For everyone else, the game is fucked. The most obvious problems are with the graphics, textures not loading in, people's mouths not moving when they're talking. These immersion-breaking bugs can keep you from identifying with the characters, and at worst make the game impossible to look at. I got a fun one where the foliage would load into the foreground of the screen so you couldn't see shit. For some reason it only did this when I wasn't recording, so I basically had to be recording the whole game for it to actually be playable. But eventually the bug stopped being so camera shy, so I was totally fucked. It's weird because you'd think that that would literally be the first thing a QA tester would see. The features that are included indicate a strange priority during the production. The game is straight up unplayable on PS4, but thank God they have 2 different penis types. A lot of the confusion might be coming from the fans. Here's a guy on Reddit complaining there aren't enough hookers in the game. Meanwhile, an hour in, and I realized there was no button to holster my weapon. But also it's an open world game in 2020, which means that by law, it must have a crafting element in it clogged with unintuitive menus. The dialogue and audio mixing shows a similar failure to prioritize. They recorded like 5 billion lines for Johnny Mnemonic. Occasionally Ghost in the Keanu will pop up and provide color commentary, but this has a tendency to overlap with the other lines to the point where you really need subtitles to figure out what everyone's saying. And the phone. The phone.
So, looks like we found the last honest cop in the city.
Whoever's idea it was to have V get 400 phone calls a minute that you're not allowed to hang up, you have made a very powerful enemy. I got another bug where the same repetitive guitar loop kept playing over conversation. But then some sections of the game have straight up no sound. This is supposed to be a loud rock concert. I did not mute this, they forgot to put in the music.
Say it's an orgy of noise or whatever.
Speaking of the soundtrack, it's pretty okay, even if it does occasionally sound like my washing machine. The shooting is pretty standard, but the perks are incredibly unbalanced. You can pretty much one-shot every enemy with a pistol if you spec into the right categories, so there's no reason to experiment with the other weapons. Stealth is probably the easiest way to play the game if you want to draw it out by 40 hours, but inevitably you'll run into 2 guys who don't want to stop gazing into each other's eyes, and that's why I recommend you quickly upgrade to the armed missile launcher. Hacking, which I think was intended to spice up the combat, is fairly bland and doesn't add much more than a distraction before you start shooting people with your wrist rockets. Unlike in, say, Watch Dogs, where you can use hacking to take control of a variety of environmental elements, here you basically use it to distract someone or turn off the cameras. But first, you have to stop in the middle of the action to do a crossword puzzle. The fuck is this? The thing that I haven't mentioned yet is the brain dances, which are genuinely fucking awful. You put on this thing that gives you a seizure, and then you go into these incredibly long sequences of stereoscopic shit vision, where you're basically role-playing as Detective Batman from Arkham Knight. But inevitably, that's all gonna get patched, so by the time you're watching this could have been replaced by fucking Cooking Mama for all I know. But they could have still hit hard if they came up with a really good story. So did they?
Save your strength, Jackie.
What do you think I'm doing?
Nah. The story is, Johnny Utah is trying to take your breath for himself because while you were out doing crime, you witnessed another crime, so you were framed for that crime, but because you were framed for that crime and not the other crime, someone crimes you right back. This causes a manifestation of Edward Scissorelbow to try to eat your brain with nanomachines. Fucking Kojima? It's super weird. You think that they could just do a crossword to hack the chip and write the code human brain is tumor equals no, but I'm not a cruciverbalist. So naturally, you want to stop this because V is such a likable and well-developed character. Oh wait.
Something feels off here.
You don't say.
I don't think I can understate how much the first-person only perspective hurts this game for me. Look how tiny my hands are! I know why they did it. They wanted to make sure you were looking at certain things at certain times, especially when you're talking to your imaginary friend. Sometimes it works really well, but other times you lose the ability to connect with V as an independent character when the game takes decisions out of your hands. And if they're gonna make you sit down for every conversation you have with someone anyway, there's no reason they couldn't have just animated some cutscenes. Is this how I run? Maybe it's good this game doesn't have third person. You see, while the writers expected you to get attached to the character of V, they also don't let you see V emote or do anything a sympathetic human would do. They're just a pair of hands and a frequently disinterested voice. Wait, I'm bald now? What the fuck? It feels like this game is being pulled in two different directions. Part of this game wants to be a tightly controlled exploration of V's relationship with the guy from Speed, but at the same time it wants to be an RPG that lets players develop their own characters. It seems like one group of writers wants you to identify with V by projecting your own personality and identity onto them, but those decisions are the same for every character build, and they're usually go here and shoot your way through an inconsistent cover system until you meet a guy you can't instantly one-shot with your pistol. Life paths, character creation decisions that I thought would have a profound impact on V's characterization really only mean anything in the first 15 minutes of the game. Then it plays the same generic montage to introduce you to the city, regardless of your background. Whoa. Pause the montage. Please tell me I did not just buy this piece of shit. Really, it's the acting of the other characters, like Jonathan Pewterfist, that holds the game's story up for me, which makes it difficult to come to terms when some of those characters just vanish from the story. Promising storylines and interesting characters screech to a halt and come to hasty conclusions. In some cases, interesting side characters and plots just fall off the face of the earth. For example, a quest that I was genuinely invested in, where I had to make a hard decision about telling a character a major revelation about his life and identity, is ultimately not affected by your decisions in any way, and the mystery it sets up is never resolved. It feels very incomplete, which is tremendously frustrating as you get invested in characters over the second act. And then I got a bug that wouldn't let me actually finish the game, so fuck me, I guess. The draw of Cyberpunk as a theme is the world, and CD Projekt Red have done an amazing job breathing life into the game's setting. Raccoon City, Owl City, Night City, a wonderfully rendered city with 0 grocery stores and 2 million sex shops. But nothing in the gameplay takes advantage of this impressive verticality. While the sets are impressive, they're sparsely populated. Walk into any club in Night City.
Night City.
Now, I don't mean to brag, but I've been in a bar before, and the fact that these people are able to walk comfortably to their seats without wading through a sea of humanity is a sign that this bar is dead. Maybe the city is under some kind of quarantine and only criminals are allowed to go outside. But then I got into my car, which is the only element of the game that exists in a third-person perspective. And my god, this is how this game was meant to be played. Your view opens up and you can take in the city as you blow past it at 100 miles an hour. Really is incredible. CD Projekt Red have made a fantastic cyberpunk driving simulator, as long as you don't try to turn your car. But then you get out of the car, and the world closes back up to your narrow field of view. Come on, River, we gotta find the... I genuinely believe Kojima has a case if he wanted to sue. Cyberpunk 2077 can be equal parts fun and frustrating. So, would I recommend this game? No, I can't recommend it. It's not finished. It would be like recommending an uncooked steak. I'm not gonna recommend that shit, not unless you wanna have a fucking seizure. But at the end of the day, the people that I feel most for are the developers. I mean, they have to work these insanely unethical hours. They work so hard and so long, they don't get to see their families, many knowing they'll be laid off once the project reaches substantial completion. And then a global pandemic hits, which probably fucked them beyond anything I can imagine. And the game comes out and everyone starts bashing them online. I really do feel for these people, and it's up to us, the consumer, to be more ethical in the companies that we support and the demands we put on them from the outside that propagate this treatment. I think there's a lot of lessons here that the games industry will fail to learn. Not being so bold and cocky in your initial marketing, not announcing features you can't deliver, making first-person RPGs. I mean, how fucked is it when Ubisoft, these guys, release a more stable and enjoyable game than the guys who made The Witcher 3? It really is a tragedy, and that's it. No funny ending, no smart-ass remark. It's just really fucking sad. But it's 2020. It's been a shit year, and we don't need it to be any worse. And you probably want something good to play at the end of this. God knows you're not going to go outside. So I'm busting out the flowchart. If you like strong character-focused sci-fi, play Mass Effect. If you're looking for a tight narrative and a unique aesthetic and you can forgive the sin of first-person RPGs, play The Outer Worlds. If you want some stealthy hacking, play Watch Dogs 2, except don't because that game fucking sucks. If you're just looking for something to shoot, play Destiny 2. If you want that expansive open world with a high degree of polish, with fantastic characters and acting, play Red Dead Redemption 2. If you want to understand the inner workings of my mind, play Fallout 4. Or if you're looking for a compelling holistic experience, play The Witcher 3 and its DLCs, which are both fucking amazing. Well, what about me, I hear you asking? What am I gonna do? Oh, don't worry about old Big Beak. I'll be just fine.